Business of Light Week. We are in day 4 of Business of Light Week. Thank you to everyone who's been joining us throughout the week. We are looking forward to our 4th panel in the series. And to me, this is one of the most fun panels because this is students for students. Not everybody on campus even knows about our Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, and that it exists to serve students from across the entire campus, not just business students. So today we have a series of students who all work in our Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. They're not all business students, but what they have in common is they've actually started businesses and been successful with them, and now are present to help others do the same. And so without further ado, I hand this panel over to our Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. Romeo Crouch is my student director. It's all yours.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. So I am the student director for the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. I have a great team that works beside me. They all have, well, my guest here, they're the facilitators there, and they have had businesses for quite some time now. I know they're all young, but some of them even 14 years old started their own businesses, 16 years old. So it takes quite courage, and there's a lot of validation that you need early on, but I'll start it off by just asking for introduction. So please just welcome yourself, say your name and the business that you have.
Right, so my name is Lucas. I'm an engineering student here in my junior year, and I run a video game development and server hosting company.
My name is Casey. I'm a freshman electrical engineering student here, and I run a fiber ISP.
My name is Arjun. I go by June. I'm a mechanical engineering major, and I have 2 startup ventures. One was where I owned an ice cream parlor, and one is where we built kamikaze drones.
Yeah, so at the CIE, we do a lot of things for students here. One of them is we help them get into competitions such as pitch competitions that we do here. Trep Expo is one of them. We do Launch Your Venture. We partner with the Microplex to do Launch Your Venture, but we try to push our students to go and do these different pitch competitions. We help prepare them for these different things. Lucas, for example, he's doing Volusia Innovation Challenge right now. He has a hard out at 5 o'clock so that he can go and compete in the finalists. So it's actually a big competition. He'll get to earn some money for his startup. So he's doing a very good job. My question to you all is, starting a business early on, especially as a teenager, there's a lot of validation and development that you have to do. What was the aha moment, basically, that gave you the confirmation that you were headed in the right direction? Lucas?
Yeah, so definitely, I mean, I've been working with a team of volunteers internationally for a long time, and it really started as a bit of a passion project where we were developing a platform in Minecraft, right? And I was in a call with 2 of my business partners now, and one of them was like, all right, well, what if we kind of go in this direction with the game development? And one of them was like, you know, what if we go in the server hosting direction? You know, and then my buddy Paul, he basically is the smartest thing I think he's ever said. He was like, what if we do both of them at the same time, right? And now we have a whole ecosystem that we're developing, and we have a whole business model because of it. So that was definitely our aha moment.
Awesome.
Yeah. My aha moment came watching YouTube of all things. I saw somebody on the internet starting up a wireless internet service provider, and I said, that looks kind of easy. And I followed through with it a little bit more, and soon I found out that fiber in the ground was a lot more cost effective than the wireless, surprisingly, and I've run with it. And we provide service to both communities everywhere, and I'm really glad I stuck with it.
My aha moment came when I saw that ice cream has a lot of money in it. And when you run an ice cream parlor, you can actually, it's easy to turn profits into more parlors, so you can easily franchise out. And it was early in the day, so that was my aha moment.
Awesome, guys. Thank you. Next question. How do you think, as a teenager, maybe, how did your idea start and how did it evolve? Because maybe you started at one place, but how did it get to where you are today?
Yeah, so I started making Minecraft servers as a middle schooler, right? So we'd be making little projects here and there, a little $600 here, $700 there. And over time, it got to a point where we realized that it was a multi-million dollar market, and we started developing some of our own projects, right, in the space. But we've been going like 6.5 years strong on the current one, and now it's the flagship project of our game development company. So it's been a long run, but the hard work definitely pays off.
Yeah, I have to say, starting off, capital was the biggest issue that I ran into. Putting fiber into the ground is not a cheap endeavor. So after I got my footing, I got some investors. We started building out, and we started moving along pretty quickly.
Well, the biggest problem was getting people inside the door. So I had to come up with frugal marketing strategies so that I create footfall through the building. And in terms of the kamikaze drone, the biggest problem was definitely getting clearances to work with ammunition, like live ammunition, and to even go close to the borders where there's like an active warfare. Those were one of the toughest challenges.
Being a student entrepreneur, what are some of the common mistakes, as well as working in the CIE? You see a lot of students come in. What are some of the most common, excuse me, what are some of the most common mistakes that student entrepreneurs make?
I think research is really, really big. Research is big. You got to know your market better than anybody, right? Because if you're going to try to attack some kind of market and you think you have a good understanding, but in reality, maybe there's 10 other products that are doing exactly what you're thinking, you gotta really have that good understanding and see the general direction that the market's going, and then maybe see something that they're missing, right? And that comes from experience, and that comes from taking the time to really get to know your industry. So that's one of the biggest things I think a lot of people struggle with at the start.
The biggest issue that I've seen in the CIE, and the biggest issue that I had was starting my business. There's a lot of information online about how to start a business, but none of it is really clear. It's something that's real clear as mud. You see online, you start an LLC, you start a C Corp, an S Corp. Which one do you choose? How do you file? How do you get an EIN? That sort of thing. And if I had some direction when I was starting off my businesses, I definitely would have chosen a different route. So being able to have that kind of direction when you're starting off of what kind of entity to choose or how to choose it, definitely would have been helpful.
Well, I think the biggest problem was definitely market research. Like every time people come up with these ideas and they're like, this hasn't been done before, but then it has always been done before. So doing market research and figuring out if even if you think it has been done before, like try to do it differently and do your market research on why is it is not so common. Do we actually have a need for that? And those type of like fill out your business canva, like the business model canva very diligently.
So that's not a dead end. When a company comes and they say they have an idea, but they see there is competition, that's not the dead end, right?
Oh, definitely not. So the way you create a moat is the most important strategy. So a moat or a USP is basically a unique selling point, and you can do the same stuff but have one unique proposition, and that could alter everything completely. So in the kamikaze drone startup, it has been done these drones have been here for over a decade, and it's been done 2 or 3 times, over two or three different times by different companies out there that are now over $1 billion in valuation and also in revenue. But what we did was we made drones that were capable of 15,000 feet altitude in the Himalayan terrain. So these were the first kamikaze drones that could handle the Himalayan altitude and the Himalayan terrain, which is why there was a need for that, but no one was addressing that. So we did basically the same thing of making a drone, but that's something that can suffice the difficult terrain.
Awesome. And Casey, I know there's many other ISPs out there in Florida alone. How do you get around that?
Yeah, so you have to have a unique selling point. You have to have something that makes your business stand out. So I know most people aren't too fond of their internet service providers. Anytime you have to call them, you're usually pissed off because your internet's not working, and there's no way around that. But you call somebody and you're on the phone, you're on hold for hours at a time to try and get something to work again. So my differentiation is we have an American-based support staff that's on call 24/7. Our average time to a call is 35 seconds. So we pick up, you have somebody that's there to answer your calls. And then we also service mainly to bulk users. So your HOAs, condo associations, that type of deal. That's where we target and we try to provide the best service that we can to them, really cater to them.
Awesome. Lucas?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think the biggest thing is with me, there's a lot of people that have made Minecraft servers before. This is not a new thing, right? But the problem I kept finding with Minecraft servers is that people put such little effort into them and made so much money. And while that's great, while that's a really good strategy, a good way to go, I just think that's a little disingenuous. And I think there's a certain level of craft that you can put into an artwork and really make it a high quality product experience, right? So what we did is we made our game voice acted and character animated, right? So when you go into the Minecraft game, you got all your blocky looking characters, but we've basically forked the game, but still made it compatible with the base version, and it's really immersive, and it kind of rivals a lot of those gaming experiences that you get outside of that Minecraft platform. So that's essentially more like that unique proposition, I guess, of what we're trying to do with that first product.
Awesome, thank you. So it takes a bit of creativity to run a business, like you said. We talked about financial as far as the funding goes. What are some unique bootstrapping or ways to gain capital and to get your business off the ground? What would you say, Lucas?
So I think it's definitely interesting. There's kind of two avenues to go. You can go down the route of a MVP, a minimum value product, or you could go down the route of going into trying to secure funding from VCs/pitch competitions, or you could do both at the same time. So if your technology, like let's say you're doing some kind of product and you're in a place where you can develop an MVP and get it in the market and do a couple demo sales, that can actually be a way to generate funds. So we did a early access demo of our game, and it made like $1,500-ish from 100 sales. And we were able to use a lot of that money to kind of keep development going forward. And then those figures we brought to the Trep Expo, where we won $1,000 and filed our LLC. And now we're competing for $10,000 tonight at Volusia. So I'd recommend both if you have the bandwidth for it, but getting some kind of minimum value product and then going to try to secure funding opportunities, whether at pitch competitions or with venture capitalists, is the best way to bootstrap that.
Awesome.
Unfortunately, in my industry, there is a very high cost of entry. So I needed to take that venture capitalist funding right from the start. So I was grateful that I got to speak to two venture capitalists, and on my second conversation with them, they both gave me funding. So I was able to secure funding off the bat to kind of expand right from the start.
Well, creativity plays one of the most vital roles for sure. So in engineering, we have this thing called frugal engineering. So use the minimum resources to do the best you can. So when it came to the ice cream parlor, I had to bring people in. So I was next to a school. So every student who came in with a good grade, I used to give him a free scoop of ice cream. And this was usually when they were leaving back like when the school ended. So they used to come in with their parents, and their parents were like, "Oh, I need that for my dinner tonight." And that free scoop of ice cream actually added up a lot in other sales. So frugality is extremely important. It's an engineering concept that we learn how to make things lean, how to do the least possible to get the best outcome.
Awesome. You mentioned venture capitalists, Casey. How did you go into those meetings, and how did you pitch to them to sell them on your idea?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're speaking to somebody who you're asking for money from, you need to know your stuff. You need to know your numbers. You need to know your product. You need to know what you're going to use that money for specifically. I broke it down. I gave them a booklet of exactly how this money is going to be used, exactly how you're going to get paid back, exactly the time frames of everything. So you need to make sure that when you're asking for money from somebody, you need to know your stuff.
Awesome, thank you. So if you don't go down the route of going to a venture capitalist and you decide that you're just a student here at Embry-Riddle, what are some ways to utilize the resources here at Embry-Riddle or at CIE? What would you guys say?
So walk into the CIE, come have a conversation with us. We'd love to tell you. So basically, we have a grant sheet, which is really cool because it has a list of like maybe 20 different opportunities that student entrepreneurs can apply to. And Embry-Riddle actually offers a decent amount of them. So in the fall, we do the Trep Expo, where my company was able to get $1,000. We had a company get $1,500, and some other companies win some People's Choice Awards and whatnot. But then we're also doing the Launch Your Venture competition right now, which is really exciting because that has a $10,000 prize, a $5,000 prize, a $3,000 prize. So a lot of the work that we do here at the CIE is helping students prepare for these competitions, really helping them to build their pitch, helping them to get their entire thing down so that they can really win as much money as possible.
Yeah, and on that same note, we're not just here for the competitions, we're also here to help you start a business. So for example, if you can get money to start your business from a grant, that's a great way to go about it. If you don't have to outlay any capital to get your business to a place where you want it, that's a great way to go about it. Grants are a great avenue to get funding, especially in the local area. There's a bunch of local grants that are really good to take advantage of.
So when you're at a university scale and you've just made a university project that you want to turn into a business, so you need something that is called in the startup world as the pre-seed round. So this is where you want to get money for neither neither any sorts of loan, or neither by giving out any equity. And that is where these things are the best. These are pure grants, no equity, no returnment of anything. So it really helps to turn the university scale project into something big.
Awesome, thank you. So I want to transition over into team building. So a lot of you work with team. You build a team around you so that you can scale your business at a faster rate. You're not able to do everything for yourself, whether it's technical, whether it's going and doing those pitches, whatever it is in your business. Lucas, I know you had to build a team. How did you do that? What type of team did you build? What were you looking for out of the team members?
Right. So we currently have 23 people working on our Titanborn project. They hail from 6 different countries, and this project has been going on for about 6.5 years now. So it's very interesting because I say that, and then everyone asks me, how much are you paying them? And you'd be surprised to know that they all work volunteer at the. How do you do that? That's kind of crazy. Well, the idea is that you really need to inspire people with your mission and your vision. And you need to have a mission and a vision that's inspiring to begin with, right? So by us going and saying, hey, we're trying to create this new experience, we're trying to redefine, how a lot of the servers in the space are being ran, and we can show that. So we do a lot of the work ourselves. We take the time to do a lot of the development ourselves. And then people look at that and they're like, wow, I really think that's great. The people that have stuck with us the longest time are the ones that have come to us, that have seen YouTube videos about us and decided, hey, I want to be part of that. These are high school-year-old kids. These are college-age kids that are studying software engineering, all that stuff, right? And we really are building business opportunity for them to put on their resumes. But then also, the idea is that I want to create employment opportunity for all of them. So it's like they work pro bono, and then we go win $10,000 tonight, and then they get commissioned out to finish our open beta and get us into that 6-figure revenue potential.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was lucky enough, through networking, I was able to find most of the people that work for me now. We don't have any employees. We subcontract everything out, and I'm very happy to do it that way. It saves both on taxes, and it helps them to be able to work on other projects as well. So we've got a team of about 23, 24 people, same size as Lucas actually, that work on everything from laying fiber in the ground to support calls to network engineering, you name it. Yeah, so kind of giving them a direction, being able to say, hey, here's what we need to do today, keeping track of a team. It's hard work, but it's been very rewarding in the fact that I no longer have to keep a thumb on everything.
Awesome. Arjun, as far as being an engineering student here, you have your startup. How do you balance being a student entrepreneur and being a student? What are some tips that you could maybe give out?
Well, time management is the most important thing that I could talk about. So if you have a half an hour between two classes, you cannot literally complete your, let's say, your thermodynamics homework, but you can knock out the small tasks that are up there, sending an email, replying to someone. So, man, this is called the scrub method in engineering, where we deliberate task based on how much time it will take and how much is it prioritized. So use that a lot and just get the best out of your time. And then on the team building part, so to create a good consistency in the team, well, when we were building the kamikaze drone startup, we took a percentage of shares out and we said these to be an employee stock option. So everyone who did good in the startup, we gave them some shares because we were pre-revenue. We weren't generating sales, but but then there is a hope to the employee who's working that once this gets big, I get a pie, I get a chunk of the pie. So the employee stock option was a good method of keeping people engaged. And that is how we have good team members. And everyone knows that if we build it together, we'll we'll be good. If we don't build it together, we'll be bad. So everyone puts it their 100%.
Awesome thing. I'm afraid to ask Casey this question because I think he goes above and beyond in this area as far as I don't know how much time he's sleeping every night, but Casey, is there any tips though? How do you best use your time to do both?
Yeah, so I'm a little bit of a special case. I do not sleep very much, and I would not suggest doing that. But that's how I've been operating for the last few years, and it's what works for me. But you've got to find a balance of what you can manage on your workload on school, what you can manage on the business, and then working in your social life into everything. Because you don't want to go through college just in a book in your business, unless that's what you want to do. More power to you. But you've got to strike a balance between everything. And there's really no good way for me to tell you how to do that. You've got to work and see what works with yourself.
Awesome.
I love opportunity costs. Like that's my biggest thing. So I work as an RA right now. I'm the senior resident advisor over in Doolittle. So whenever I'm on like my duty shifts, I'm doing homework or I'm working on company stuff. And the reality is that I've built my schedule such that every time I'm going somewhere, like Arjun is saying, you can use that time to be productive. Like business management requires a lot of communication. There's a lot of moving pieces, especially if you're team-based. And project management in general, you have to be kind of driving everybody in directions all the time. So I'm probably making a good, I don't know, 5 to 20 phone calls a day. And I can make those phone calls on the way to class. I can make those phone calls on the way to going and pick up the duty bag as an RA. And in general, I really just try to multitask and optimize my time and allow my time to work for me. So, I turn the biggest areas of cost like housing and all that jazz into things that are paying me to do them while I'm doing my homework, right? And I think that that's kind of the best way really to use your time here at Riddle because it costs a lot to do.
Yeah, it sounds like a fully booked schedule for a college student. But would you say that it's worth it? Would you say there's some burnout there?
I think it depends on how bad you want your dreams to be reality. Like if you're in a position where you see where you want to be and you think to yourself that you want that, but you really want that as in you need that and you're going to make it happen, then it doesn't matter what it takes because you're going to accomplish it because it's your dream. Yeah.
Yeah, where there's a will, there's a way.
Awesome.
Well, to add to that, a business for me was freedom. Because as an international student, like if I want to work here, I need a visa sponsorship. I need a bunch of other documents to get there. If I have my own LLC, I can use it to basically do whatever I wish to, So it is definitely worth it, I would say.
Okay. So say you're a student on campus and you have a great idea. What are some tips that you can give them on if they can't build it themselves? What tips can you give these students and everyone here today about what they can do from that point forward?
Right. So I think the biggest thing there is like, let's say, you know, maybe you're an engineering student and you have a design for some new kind of drone or something. I think we offer a lot of resources here at the CIE in terms of how you can put that idea together on some kind of poster board. And when you go to a lot of the pitch competitions here at Embry-Riddle, I would almost argue that you're more the businesses that have those kind of products and those kind of ideas that are more in the engineering aspect, they're favored here, right? So when you go to the Trep Expo and you have that kind of concept, even if you haven't tested in the market, you can still make money, right? When you go to the Launch Your Venture competition, you know, you can still have a product that hasn't necessarily been tested in the market and you can still win money. So the biggest thing I'll say is, if you know your stuff and you got a good idea, come to us, you know, and we'll help you refine it. We can help you with the aspects of getting the LLC filed or whatever kind of entity type you want to do, and assist you in those other areas. Because there's a lot that's involved in having an idea and then turning it into a profitable business opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're very fortunate. We go to a very nice university. We are a melting pot of minds. There is engineers here that can help bring your product to the next level. There's business majors here that can help with marketing and running your actual business day to day. If you have an idea, there are people on this campus who can make it happen. And at the CIE, we're fortunate. We're able to kind of network you together with those people who can help you.
Anything to add?
Nothing, just network properly. And as they've already said, we've got people across the campus who can get things done for you. So you can easily network out people who can help you build your shadow.
Awesome. So let's talk more about the challenges in a startup. So what is the biggest startup challenge, you would say?
I don't know. It's definitely between scope, schedule, and cost. You know, like I think people think that they want to do some sort of business idea and they have an idea in their mind of how they're going to do it. But, you know, but maybe the journey to get there is very long and requires a lot of intricate attention to detail, right? And maybe it's too overcomplicated and maybe you don't have the resources to accomplish it. So I think the biggest challenge is simplifying your product enough to a point where you can actually get it developed with your current resources, but having it be unique enough to a point where people want to purchase it and buy it and you know, buy into the idea. And that is a very hard line to balance. But when you're able to balance it, you've struck gold, and that's where you're going to make a lot of money.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with scope. Everybody wants everything all at once. And unfortunately, in business, that's not the way it works. You've got to kind of build up to a point of a minimum viable product. You've got to work your way up. You can't just say, I'm going to start a software as a service company and provide everything immediately. You've got to have your development, you've got to have your business, your marketing, you've got to start from somewhere. And unfortunately, when you're starting off, you don't know how to kind of hone in what you need to do to begin. So I think talking to others, especially people who have already done this at CIE, plugging us again, but talking to people who have done this is a really helpful thing to do, because you can ask questions that, you know, maybe they made a mistake and they know how to prevent you from making the same mistake. So.
Well, I would double down on his point on creating an MVP, the minimum viable product. If you can prove that with the least resources, you can make the best outcome, that's how you build credibility to gain investor feedback and to gain their money. But apart from that, I would also add that team building and team networking is one of the biggest challenges you'll have, and communication between them. So in engineering, we have something called the Gantt chart, which basically keeps everyone on the same line of thoughts. Like once I changed in an M3 screw on an assembly to an M5 screw, and then the next day we ordered 200 M3 screws, and they were all not usable anymore. So the proper communication between everyone is an extremely important, and startup comes with a big challenge of that.
Awesome. That's a great transition into my next question. Thank you for that. But how would you two answer the question of, when something didn't go as planned, how did you overcome that? And what are some of those things that didn't go as planned?
Yeah, so unfortunately, in the business of construction, things are bound to go wrong. So when we were doing our first project, we hit a bunch of sprinklers, we hit a bunch of cables in the ground, we hit a bunch of everything. And unfortunately, that took a hit for us. We had to make everybody whole in the situation. So things are going to happen. Nothing is going to go perfectly in any business. And you've just got to adapt to that. And you've got to adapt to your situation. There's going to be no real direction that somebody is guiding you towards, because everything is unique, and you need to kind of assess the whole situation as it happens to move forward in a way that works best for you and your business.
Yeah, we did, speaking of MVPs, right? So we released like an early access demo in like February of 2024 initially, and everything broke. Everything broke. So players came on and they were paying customers that were buying like keys, like access to this server for $15 a pop. And we had a lot of people that were buying it, and they were coming on, and this was breaking and this was breaking, and the entire code was written really poorly. So what we did is we took the entire thing and we redid the entire minimum value product, because I felt like we wanted to give that. We had to give that. We owed it to our paying customers, and we wanted to do that. So basically, we spent maybe a good week looking at all the bug reports and everything that was wrong, and surprisingly, people just kept buying it. You know, we're like, no, guys, stop, wait, don't keep buying it for a little bit. But we did an update, and it did really, really well. And after that point, we felt very comfortable bringing on YouTubers, starting to market more, and it reached like 40,000 views across 6 different YouTube channels. So I think like sometimes you really just have to try. It's okay to fail at things, but how you react to that, you know, and the direction that you move in and the pivots that you make are very important.
Awesome. What's the most important advice you would have for a student entrepreneur, Arjun?
Oh, that's a good one. The most important advice would be to not stop, to keep on going, and to make sure that you want to achieve your dreams, so that you just keep hustling. That would be the biggest.
Yeah. My advice would be strive for perfection. Nothing's perfect. Nobody will ever be perfect. But the more that you try to become a perfect company, a perfect person, the work to better yourself, you're going to succeed.
Yeah, I would say you got to create your own tables to sit at. I think a lot of people really fight and push to earn a seat at a certain table, you know, and the reality is that sometimes you really need to pave your own way. I've had people ask me, you know, why not do Mario instead of Minecraft, which was a really interesting question I got asked last week. You know, but in general, you got to just do your thing, right? And people will follow you. You will inspire people to go in your wake, and that's what the business leaders of the world do today, right? They define their own path, and all of those tables that, you know, you've always wanted to be able to sit at, you know, next thing you know that you're running one of them. You're basically, you've built one of them. So I think like for the people that want to do that, that want to do the entrepreneurship thing, establish that mentality early on and just do your own thing.
Oh, thank you. Next question I have is, how do you handle self-doubt, failure, fear? As a young entrepreneur, I'm sure there's a lot of things that could go wrong that you can think of. How do you deal with these thoughts?
Well, I do everything that I like. So whenever I have thoughts like that in my mind, I just go out on a motorcycle ride. So and then the self-doubt, how I handle self-doubt is I interact with people who are of the same mindset, and I take their mentorship. So for instance, when I joined the CIE, I before beginning I didn't knew what I was getting into. But once I was in here, and when I interacted with Casey and Lucas, I was like, I really vibed with them. And these guys are talking the same thing I'm talking about. And that's how I really got over it.
Yeah. I try to surround myself with people who are better than me. If you are the smartest person in a room, you're never going to learn anything. And I really enjoy learning. As weird as it sounds, I strive to be the dumbest person in the room, because it means there is so much more knowledge that I can gain. So I think surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals who want you to succeed, who are succeeding in their own right, that's the best piece of advice I can give you there.
Yeah, I think the best form, and I'd love to bounce off of that. The best form of validation, right, is seeing people that are in very high places telling you, I think it's a good idea. I believe in you, like I champion what you're trying to do. And so take on mentors, I think that's actually a great, area where the CIE can kind of come in because basically you could come in as a student and you could come talk to us as three people that have established our own companies. And Casey and I, we filed our own businesses and whatnot, right? For us to go and say, hey, this is like a pretty good idea, right? Or like this could really, I think there's a certain level of wow, like confidence that builds. So really just surround yourself by mentors. And even if we're like, maybe we want to pivot this in a little bit, you go and apply those changes and you go and see the extent by which your company is now going to start skyrocketing because of the advice you take on from those mentors. And that's just the best part. Like I have mentors right now that have really told me they believe in what we're trying to do, that have backed me, that have fought for me. And it fills me with this fire to keep pushing forward. So seek out mentors. That's the biggest thing. Absolutely.
Awesome. Let's talk a little bit about the future for all of you and your companies. What are you most excited about in the future plans that you have for your company?
You want to go first? So my big excitement, I want to hit 10,000 subscribers by the end of 2026. So that's our big goal. We're trying to get 10,000 active users on our monthly platform. So kind of getting to that point is where our vision is leading us to go. But having to deal with the challenges of teamwork and having to manage new projects and everything, it's stressful. So the fact that I have a good team to rely on is very, very nice.
Well, for the drone startup, the next big thing is we really want to raise this Series A round, and we're trying to raise a big sum of money, and that will put our valuation even higher. I cannot really talk about those numbers, obviously, but this is the next big thing that we're trying to do, and we're also trying to set up a small manufacturing facility. So we're trying to create our own printed circuit boards for the drones. So, there's a saying that if it's green or if it's blue, it comes from Asia. So every time you open an electronic part, if there's a green chip inside of it, or if it's a blue chip, every single chip comes from Asia. So we're trying to create our own so that we don't depend on these manufacturers, because importing them, exporting them is kind of a big hassle, especially if you don't have a carrying and forwarding agent. So these are the two most things, and that's the future for us. So hopefully.
Yeah, I'm very gracious to say we are one of 5 companies that are in the Volusia Innovation Challenge tonight at 5:30. So we have an opportunity to potentially win $10,000 or $5,000 or a $2,000 People Choice Award. And with our business bank account file, that's going to get put straight to work. So that's kind of like a big immediate goal later tonight. We'll see what happens. But beyond that, I mean, we're going to be getting our game, right? It's called Titanborn. We're developing an open beta, and that's really the next big thing that we're trying to do. So we have a whole projection for how we want that to establish, and then long term, we want to own 10 Titanborns. We want to basically manage a lot of different projects internally, and then also sell server hosting solutions and just have a whole network internationally that we're basically all using as different value stream potential. So I'm trying to build like a 7-figure brand. If we can do that within the next couple of years, that'd be great. But it's honestly the sort of thing that I'm just going to keep pushing at it until it happens.
Awesome. I think the last question that I have before we open it up to the audience is, if the student has an idea and they're not quite sure what to do about it, where would you point them to?
Is anyone going to say not the CIE?
I think we're all in agreement here. Yep.
Come to the CIE. It's a really good place. We can help you out. We really can help you out. I think we spend a lot of time trying our best to help entrepreneurs that are starting up. I've met with a lot of clients. I think we've all met with a lot of clients, and I think a lot of people can really tell that we are there to just work with you to the best of our ability and give you our advice and give you our insights, and not give legal or tax advice, but give you our insights.
So audience, if you have any questions, please, it's your chance.
I want to know if you guys have anybody specific that inspired you to get that entrepreneurship bug in you, or was it your father, mother? Does it go through the family? Are you the first in your family?
I can start with that. So I don't know, like, I don't really have any major business people, like engineering people in my family. I just kind of played Minecraft a bunch as a kid, and yeah, I don't know. It got to a point where we were looking at it. I guess there were people that we started to meet that were like managing these big servers that had like 30,000 concurrent players and were making a lot of money. I was like, whoa, that's kind of cool. And then I really don't think it was until college, you know, and I mean, because we filed our LLC 4 months ago. So it wasn't really until more recently that we realized like, oh, wow, like we could turn this into a company. I thought I was just making a cool project, you know.
Thank you.
Yeah, for me, it was my grandmother, because the ice cream parlor was run by my grandmother. And I used to help her whenever I could. And ice cream is, though there's a lot of money in it, but it's a less profit margin item. Like if you're carrying 30 ice cream tubs, and if one of them or two of them get damaged, that's your profit. Now you're in loss. So she somehow managed everything properly, despite of not being at her best age, and went from like one show to like three more. So she was basically fine.
Yeah. My grandfather worked on Wall Street for 50 years, so I got to see that kind of firsthand. So being able to look up to somebody and say, wow, they were able to make a way for themselves. That's what inspires me.
Okay, I have the one question. When you set up your business plan, and do you have some criteria that is, if I have the fed of this direction, I should change another thing. So maybe which is your criteria? That is no profit, or run
What
out
are
of
your
the
pivot
money,
points?
something? Do you have some this second plan, or maybe change, look for other opportunity?
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. So basically, if you are working on something for X quantity duration time, and maybe it's not producing profit, or maybe, you know, something isn't really working out, are you asking about like, you know, what direction should you pivot in, or at what point should you make those kind of pivots? Yeah, no, that's a great question. So in reality, in my opinion, you want to be able to make money, right? If you're working on your company and you have some kind of idea and you're working on it for years and years and years and years, and I'm a little bit of a hypocrite because I've been doing this for 6 years, right? It's honestly, it's kind of, it's up to you, right? If you have your thing established and you get it running and it's just not turning any kind of profit for, you know, a year, maybe 2 years, or maybe even like a couple months, you want to think about, okay, what are we missing? What are we not doing? How can we change our strategy? How can we change our direction? So I think it's dependent on what you're doing and how you're doing it. But you definitely, you think to yourself, should it really be making money by now? Maybe if it should, let's try to do something a little different.
The first 5 years of business are the most critical. Most businesses in the US that start, the first 5 years, they don't profit. And I know, for example, I started off wanting to do a wireless internet service provider. That's what we put our funding into. That's what we wanted to do. I quickly realized that there is more money in fiber, and that there is more money both in construction, but not by much, but in what we could charge people for fiber internet. So we pivoted in the first 4 months of business from, we just put a bunch of investment into wireless equipment. Well, we're moving to fiber. So there is times where you should say, yeah, maybe there is a better way to do this.
Well, if you're making your business model, like the business plan, you should, when you're thinking quarterly, like in the first quarter, I want to do this, in the second quarter, I want to do this. So don't think forward, think backwards. So like, let's say in 2 years from now, you want to sell $10,000 worth of item. For that, in the third quarter, I would need this much. For that, in the second quarter, I would need this much. And then go down to the first quarter and then think what you should do right now, and then build upon that. So that's one of the advice that I give whenever people come in, and that's a very helpful one.
Yes, thank you.
First, y'all have been amazing. Thank you, all of you. You'll be amazing tomorrow too, I bet. And Saturday, and every other day, because you've got such a drive. The media loves to tell the story of the entrepreneur that dropped out of college
and became successful beyond anyone's dreams. Why are you all here?
Well, that is true, that could be true, but statistically, if you look at the world's millionaires and billionaires, you'll see that most of them have a college degree. Now we can talk about that one or two such individuals that dropped out and made a lot of money, but then again, if you go statistically, the majority of them have a college degree. And 3 years ago, when I was in high school, I didn't knew anything. I knew much lesser than what I know right now. Studying engineering with all my professors, all the help that I have, this campus itself. So definitely yes. The networking part.
I told myself at the age of 4 that I was going to be an electrical engineer, and I stuck to it. I'm very fascinated by engineering. It's something I like to learn about. So that's kind of the reason I'm doing it. Not specifically because I want to go into engineering as a career path, although I do, but because it's something that I'm genuinely interested in learning about.
I believe in having backup plans so strong that they make your main plans look weak by comparison. So no, I'm working. I did an internship last summer with Collins Aerospace. I'm their lead student ambassador right now. So I have a pathway to start with them when I graduate. And having that as my foundation allows me to make very risky and bold decisions with what I'm doing as a business, because I am financially I'm not relying on it at all at the moment, which is really great, because I can put more money into it. I can allow the money to stay in it. I can worry less about me and worry more about growing it. So I don't know. I'd love to be a business owner. I'd love to own multiple companies and whatnot, but there's a pathway to get there, and there's a lot of risk involved, and maybe it doesn't work out or something, or maybe I have to delay my timeline. So the reality is that whether or not the business works out, I have an avenue to continue as an entrepreneur, and I've built those skills to make sure that I can get a career opportunity. Because when you go the college route, it's difficult, but it's a lot less low risk in the sense that your company isn't going to crumble in front of your hands because you're working for a big organization.
Yeah, I think one would say that being full-time in whatever startup you're pursuing, you could go further maybe, and you could do a lot more. Would you stick with your plan if that was guaranteed?
Yeah, I think so. We got to see. I mean, it depends how tonight goes. If we get 10 grand, let's, I'd say 100% let's do it. No, I'd love to. I really love to. If that opportunity presented itself and I could run with that, then great. It's a dream. I remember my little cousin actually called me the other day. We kind of grew up together. He was like, Lucas, I remember you told me when we were like 8 years old that you were going to run one of the biggest Minecraft servers one day, and he's like, it's crazy, but that's kind of what you're doing now. And, so yeah, we've just been kind of running with it, but I'd love to be able to do it full time. I absolutely would.
Absolutely. Any other questions?
All right. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you everyone for being present.